Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about Logic Pro and Sonoma. We're going to be looking at how it's working with the new operating system. I do the update to the newest operating system and the latest version of Logic instantly every time. That way you can come and see if we're experiencing anything surprising. That way you can know, for instance, what's working and what's not working. And honestly, it's a little bit reckless. That's okay, because I don't have any massive projects on my docket right this second. And when I do have projects that I'm working on, I always keep a backup and have a backup computer with previous versions of the operating system. But honestly, most of the time, I'm a nomad when it comes to third-party plugins, which means the minute I upgrade, if a company doesn't want to keep things stable and working with future versions, then I use them less. And so I'll uninstall things. So far, I will say I've been using Sonoma and Logic since it was released last week. And no issues. I haven't had a single Logic crash. So that's good. That means without an update from Logic, which we're expecting now any day, it could be later today, it could be tomorrow. It's usually Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We hardly ever have updates on Mondays and Fridays, never on the weekends. So we're going to be on close update watch the next few days this week, and then the next few days in the middle of next week, and so forth until it comes out. So make sure you come back, because we will be installing that instantly as well and going through all the new features, big or small, as we always do. Sometimes we'll do them on live stream. Sometimes we'll do them on non-live stream videos, but that's going to be the plan. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. And we'll go over them. The main things I'm always curious about are things with performance. And so we'll be looking at the CPU meter a little bit. And we'll go from there. Okay. Also multitasking here. Okay. Okay. So, let's see. Ollie says, I'm so sad, no update. I just want to beat Breaker and sample Alchemy and macOS. I think it may be, if they do a big version, that's what'll come. They have a trend of releasing things in iPad or iOS version. And so I'm guessing that's what's going to be happening. Okay. In terms of the performance, let me know as well in the comments if you've updated and had any issues. But so far, let's take a peek at maybe running a couple massive instruments for a second and see exactly what happens with that. So one thing we can do is use something like Alchemy and just pull open some sort of preset. I am going to use the quality as ultra because that can sometimes really use some power. So we get the initial spike on this. It went all the way up for a second. That's normal when it's loading. and we're about 25% with one instrument. Let's see. I want to use Sculpture for a second. I didn't prepare any of this demo, but I am curious just to see, for instance, exactly how much we're gonna like push this up over the edge. So with Sculpture, this one tends to sometimes be a hog, especially in the render mode of high definition. And we'll put the voices up to 16, and we'll turn up some of these other. Let's turn it down just a little bit. So we're getting that up to 50%. I'm sure there's some third-party instruments that would take it even more. But I think at this point, I think there's no major concerns just with a single instrument. And so often with a new software update in the operating system, but Logic doesn't come up, then there's CPU management issues. We've all faced those many times in the past. And my experiment just now, but also opening up other projects, are that I don't have any performance issues. I haven't been clipping out. It's been handling everything just fine. So that's promising. It's promising in the sense that whatever they did with the new operating system hasn't affected the audio performance as far as we can tell. Now, if anybody is facing issues, it's likely to be third-party things that maybe were on the fritz anyway. And so it could be that it finally broke something for you, but all of my plugins so far are still working. And so I haven't had any major issues with like Waves plugins. I don't use a ton of them right now. I've been using the NX thing since it got updated. I have everything else deactivated for the moment. Not because they were causing issues, but because when Waves did their big change this past year or this year to the subscription model, they like installed everything. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be using any of those in the future, but I just left them all in, but just turned them off for Logic. My SSL stuff, I loaded it up in a project. It's working great. I think the real thing right now is that they're all working with Logic because it's still the same version of Logic. It's when Logic gets an update that we're going to have to wait and see exactly which things are compatible with the new version of Logic or not. So the transition to this, to the new Sonoma, seems relatively smooth. Now, this is not and never will be an endorsement. It'll never be an endorsement of upgrading before it's ready to upgrade. That's never the point of these videos, because I do feel like everybody has a different setup with different hardware and software, and you need to make sure that whatever you're using is compatible. I'm going to look real quick and see, for instance, the SSL. I have the SSL 12. I don't know. Let's go to home and see if, yeah, there's no updates for that at this moment. But I believe I just updated it pretty recently anyway, and maybe it compensated for the new operating system. But to not update a SSL device, or to update the operating system without having an update for that, is kind of risky because so much of that is based on the software control mechanism. That's probably the riskiest move I made by going to Sonoma, is not knowing if the SSL interface would work or not. But it has worked just so everything so far, everything has worked. And that, I think, to me, without being a coder or a software designer, really says that they didn't change a lot of the stuff related to what we do with Logic. It also is likely why they didn't release some sort of sequential update for Logic at the same time, because they knew that it was going to be stable enough to run with it. We're also, of course, on the latest number of 10.7.9. So they would have had to do a 10.7.9.1. But so they worked themselves into a numbering corner. That means they're either going to go to 10.8 with the next thing or up to 11. I think, it feels like they've skipped from 10.7 up to the next numbering thing in the past. So it could be that they're saying, you know what, we just did this iPad version. We've just spent the last how many months since they released the iPad version to get it better. Because, man, that interface is so close, but also so horrible at the exact same time. And so that could be part of their thinking, that they're now going to say, you know what, we just essentially beta tested Logic Pro on the iPad with everybody. Here's version 11 of Logic, the unified version between the iPad and the desktop. And we're ready. It's like we're ready to release all of the features that everybody wants, and there's going to be no bugs and so forth. So, hypothetics and so forth. Anyway, there's a few of you watching. What are you most concerned about with upgrading to Sonoma? Let me know in the comments. Let's pull open a project. And actually, we'll leave this one open in the background. Let's play this and see. I don't know let's see what song this is. The snow was falling into the winter night. I looked for hours, but still I couldn't find the things that kept me warm and saved my life. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen my CPU performance meter so evenly spread across there. There's, the edge spikes there up to almost 25%, which I'm not 100% sure what those are. I don't know if selecting a different, looks like if I select the master, the one that's on the right goes down, but the one on the left stays up. But I mean, that's like spread even. The snow was falling into the winter night. I looked for hours, songs that kept me warm and saved my life. And so I walked and walked. And man, that is, I mean, obviously I've got a good computer for this, but it is like barely doing anything. And usually it's spreading that differently. I see it's changing what it's doing with some of the threads as I change tracks. But even as before the Sonoma, it was like just choosing half of the threads and using those. But now I don't think I even need all those threads. So if you're using, a multi-thread core, so let's pull this down. Let's just do automatic. It'll have to re-tweak it. So you should almost always use the automatic. I think I had it on the full one just for a video I was making. But let's see. The snow was falling into the winter night. Man, that is so low and so performance happy. Now, this is not a huge project by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have the full drummer out, the producer kit, which usually takes up more. I've got a couple bass tracks, keys, some other instruments, including, including Reason Rack, which looks like it has an update I'll need to do at some point. But I mean, it would normally have gone up a little higher than this in the past, so I think we're doing okay performance-wise. That's a good thing. But even the Reason Rack in its current state is functioning. It hasn't caused anything to crash. This has been a culprit in the past for sure. Because it just is quirky. I'm trying to think of what else we've had issues with. So another thing I always look at when I'm doing this is the audio MIDI device setup. And it looks like there's nothing new here as far as I can tell. There's no additional features. This is all old stuff. And I don't think we've had anything change with this on this version at all. So we've, in the past, definitely had things added and had people talking about those, but I don't see anything that's changed here. In terms of IDAM, which is the inter-device audio MIDI. So I don't think that we have any functionality differences here. Some of the last updates we got included spatial audio for the operating system, and those are implemented, and I don't see any major changes for Logic. I don't think I see anything different with Bluetooth connections or any of the network setup. This stuff has been around for a long time. I do think it's interesting. So here's one thing that I thought was interesting. We have inside Logic, this came out with one of the more recent versions of Logic. We have the Logic Pro Virtual In, which is a MIDI pipeline. So you can do MIDI between apps and things. I'm really surprised that that is not listed over here in the audio MIDI setup. So if anything, they've actually compartmentalized more than we have in the past. And it's not that that Logic virtual MIDI cable, for whatever reason, it's like an IAC driver, right? I mean, that's essentially what it is, but it's not in here. And so we have no control over it. It's just a weird pipeline that goes back and forth, but we have nothing we can do with it. Okay. I'm just looking through my notes. Let's see. We'll know more. So, like I said, we're on update watch for the new version of Logic. As far as I know, it could be as early as this afternoon and as late as never. But we're really hoping that it's in the next week or two. You know, there's a team somewhere that's deciding when things get released. I'm sure it's a mixture of making sure they're not overloading all their downloads at once. At the same time, marketing needs to have their time to say, you know, we're doing OS week or 2 weeks. But they did do a Final Cut Pro update. It looks like, let me open up my App Store for a second on my other screen here. I swear I saw that they did GarageBand. Oh, I don't have GarageBand on this computer. That's why I don't see it. But I think I can go to their page real quick. 6 months ago was the latest one on the OS version, but they did do one on iOS. I'll pull that up real quick. GarageBand. Let's see if they say when they did it on here. Man, they're really, I don't know why they're so trying to hide when they update things. But I don't see it on the actual page on the phone. Oh, 1 week ago. There it is. I thought I was going crazy. They just updated the iOS and iPadOS version of GarageBand 1 week ago. And it just did stability improvements and bug fixes. Which, let's take a look and see what that means exactly, because it could mean a number of different things, and it may be a clue to what we're going to get in Logic. GarageBand iOS release notes. Okay, so this is the version 2.3.15. They love those little points. So GarageBand no longer unexpectedly quits when importing a MIDI file that uses a 3/4 time signature. I love that. Addresses an issue when GarageBand can unexpectedly quit when editing MIDI note velocities. The drummer menu in Drummer now includes a new option called Swing None. Huh. And then step sequencer remains in sync after doing something. Jam session. And then general corrects an issue where sustained behavior might persist even when switching to patches that provide no option to disable. GarageBand now consistently shows a message when Bluetooth audio device is connected. And playing a 3-note chord on a touch instrument no longer triggers an undo prompt. Okay. Let's hope that when they update Logic Pro for iPad that's not the list. That's a pretty small list. 2.3.14 was even a smaller little fix. 2.3.13, etc. It just goes and goes and goes, right? Okay, so we have some stuff to wait for. But so far, nothing is a red flag on my system for Sonoma. It still loads up. All of my normal plugins are still working, even without updates. And that's always a surprise, right? But so far, so good. That's all we're going to do for the stream today. Just a conversation about this. And hopefully we'll have some more videos coming up this week with some things, either with an update or with some other new cool software I've been testing out that's working with Logic. But we'll end it here for now. Thanks everybody for watching.